It's time to bring the hoops actions to the palm of your. Oh my god!
I didn't do anything that time.
Fuck, dude, I can't do this right now. Okay.
Do you want to say anything?
No. Welcome back to another edition of the Raider Take podcast. I'm Mike McDonald. With me, as always, is Andy McDonald. For once, I didn't really come up with anything nifty to say in the beginning, you know? And maybe that is nifty to say, because I didn't have anything nifty to say. Before we jump into things, as I am already all over the place, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. We do have the combine. It's about a week away, I believe. A week from Thursday, which is tomorrow. Recording Wednesday night, but yeah, it's an exciting time. It's also like a lull period for us, where we talked about it, like we're gonna have content, obviously with DC, and we don't have a quarterback, so things to talk about. But definitely an interesting time of the year, and football has been gone for a little bit. We miss her, as you named her, or she. We'll miss her certainly, but definitely going to be back soon. So I'm doing all right, man. I'm excited to get things rolling here.
Rumor is, I won't say word, I'll say rumor, is that there's a chance that the Chicago Bears might be willing to deal Justin Fields and take a quarterback at number one. Take Bryce Young at number one, realistically. So, in a scenario where that is the truth, where we're speaking truths, where are you at on trading for Justin Fields? And I will add on to that, let's fall down any rabbit hole that is available at the moment, but what does a trade like that look like, capital-wise?
Yeah, I did fall down that rabbit hole, that's for sure. I don't know, man. Like I feel like, God bless the Texans and Davis Mills. Just like, and what's funny is we actually talked about this on the podcast, where it was like they scored and went for two. They're like, we're gonna lose this number one spot. Like, we want to do that. And Lovie Smith was like, I'm out anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I guess what like a package would look like is we would have to give up our number 7 overall for sure, right? And probably like a 1 or 2 next year, and then some kind of like 3 or 4 this year, right? So I think it's fascinating to look at. I think a lot of it is smoke, really, because I know when there's smoke, there's fire, right? But I don't think that they're done with Justin Fields. What you have to look at too is the fact that there's, they had a new coach that came in last year, right? And he is someone that it's not like they turned it over, and there's like a new coach and new GM, and they're coming in like, we're just gonna like figure things out. Like, it's the same coach, same GM, and they're like, we have the number 1 pick, so let's just figure this out. I think all of this is like basically just like, let's just see what we can field as in Justin Fields, right? But I don't think they end up dealing him. If they do, I think the Raiders should be all over that. That would be the perfect scenario, because like you talk about like Rodgers, like, oh man, could we get Rodgers? And like, what we have to give up? Here's this draft capital. He might not play next year, like it. And then it's like, okay, well, Tom Brady retires. And it's like, well, I guess we have Jimmy Garoppolo or Jared Stidham or Mac Jones. Should we trade for Mac Jones? Or what if Lamar doesn't get re-signed? Like, what could we do? Like, Justin Fields is the perfect scenario where we could trade for him, have a rookie contract, and then be like, let's develop him. He has the right intangibles as far as like he can throw the ball good enough. I think he's not as. I'm kind of like getting a little out of my skis here, but like before we get into the QB rankings, which will be next week, but like I don't think he's as polished as a quarterback as CJ Stroud is, but like I think he would be coming into the system where it's like he's such a dual threat. He's such a like Lamar protege in a sense, where we could develop him. We wouldn't have to trade that much, and especially if they're wanting to take Bryce Young, that it could be a factor. But like that's a lot of things to say without saying anything at all. I just don't think they're going to trade Justin Fields. But if it was, I think we'd have to give up this year's one, probably like a two, this year's one, a two, and then like a 1 and a 3 in that sense. So because I really think that he is that valuable, and also like they're going to squeeze us. We're coming at 7, right? So they're going to try to squeeze us for whatever we got in that sense. So I don't know. That I didn't really answer your question, but I think it's just like a fascinating topic where I don't think the Bears are going to trade him, but I think that in the sense that they do, like they would have to get a lot, right? They would have to get a lot, and then they would also be like, okay, cool, we got all this draft capital. Here's Bryce Young, boom. Like it. I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying. And because it's like they started seeing success, right? With Justin Fields, they started seeing that like, all right, we're going to build around him and do and kind of form the offense to him and, do the things that he can succeed at. And they started having success at it. We saw them put up 29 points on, we talked about this before, right? They put up 29 points on what was the best defense in the NFL at the time, the Cowboys. They 50-burgered as well, the Cowboys themselves, or the Bears themselves. But to go in and just be like, all right, we'll just trade him because we'll get Bryce Young. Like, you'd have to feel so good about Bryce Young to just do that. You'd have to feel good about Bryce Young plus the capital you could get, right? And maybe they would, but at the same time, it's like you don't know what you got with Bryce Young until you have him. You know what you got with Justin Fields right now, and it looked way more promising than anything the Bears have had since Jay Cutler, really. So I agree with you. I don't think they deal him. That would be a pretty awesome thing to like put in the mix. I don't know. Depending on what it would take.
Sorry to cut you off, but like I think what's fascinating is like once I saw that rumor, I was like, boom, I'm in, because we don't have any other options. It's like Rodgers, or do you think we can get Lamar? And if not, we're screwed. It's like we don't have many options. It's like Justin Fields might be available. Let's talk about this. And not say it's a bad talking point, because I think there could be some truth to that. It's just like I think the Raiders are not the Raiders. Like maybe Dave Ziegler's not like but we're kind of like we might be running out of options at this point, and we need to figure this out.
Raider Nation.
Justin Fields, yeah,
you plan it as Raider Nation is in that point.
Exactly, yeah. And so it's like it would just be, I don't know. I would say crazy if they traded Justin Fields, and I would love to have him, but I also don't think they'll do it. If they do, and then it's like we'll take Bryce Young, who's shorter and weighs about $165, and they still don't have any weapons. Let's do this thing. We got to go to Green Bay, Lambeau Field, twice a year. Let's do it. Like good luck. I would be down, because we'll take Justin Fields, in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like something that gets floated out there is mostly because they have the number 1 pick, and it might just be to cause some turmoil and to get us Raider fans like, let's do this thing. I think he's available, because I hope Rodgers doesn't come out of this dark, whatever it was.
Zero dark 30-23.
Yes, that's it.
So here's I've got two different things off of this tangent about DC. First one is the AFC East the closest resemblance to the AFC West that Derek Carr could go to? When you've got one juggernaut in Josh Allen, you've got someone who's got like all the ceiling in the world potentially when it comes to that Herbert Tua comparison, and then you've got just someone who's playing whatever with Mac Jones and Russell Wilson. And then you got Derek Carr jumping in there trying to like compete with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, maybe, a more higher talented player. He might be just jumping into the East Coast version of what he was already in regards to competing as a quarterback within your own division.
Yeah, I would say it's close. Like, I mean, if you look at the AFC North, you got Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Deshaun. Like, I think Deshaun, like that year, even though we don't support what he did, as far as the outside of the lines there, I think it's a very QB heavy, division, and then you have to factor in the Steelers with two gloved. What's his name?
Kenny
From Kenny
Pickett.
Pickett. Yeah. So yeah, but I would agree with you. It's like there's the Dolphins were a juggernaut as far as like even with Tua like concussed or not concussed, like they're still competing. They made the playoffs, right? And then you have the Bills and you have the Patriots that are going to figure it out. So like I would agree where he would just fall into place of like the third or fourth best QB there, and it's like go ahead, have fun, you know.
Yeah. And so another interesting thing that I was saw floating around and I wanted to talk to you about, as everyone knows, things didn't quite line up last week like we wanted them to. But so you had DC, he went and visited the Saints, right? They had this big meeting. Everything went well. DC's like, no, sorry, not making a trade. If he eventually signs with the Saints in free agency, is there any bit of argument about tampering when it comes to that? Like, because they had a conversation with someone who was under contract and basically coerced him to come to his team. If they sat there and said like, "Hey, don't take a trade. We'll make this work. We'll figure this out. We'll get you the same contract or a similar contract, or we'll make things work. Just don't make us give up any draft capital." Where's that fall in the lines of tampering, right? If they end up getting him in the long run.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that, and so I think when you look at it, like we did grant him requests to, meet with teams, right? So like I think whatever happens, happens. Um, I don't know if like, I think when he came out and said like I'm not going to accept a trade to the Saints or any other team, like that kind of I think he covered his bases there, right? Where it's like no, I wouldn't accept anything, right? So I think when you go back to it, it's like I think there is a shot that he does end up making a deal with the Saints. So as far as tampering goes, I don't think we have a case because like we're like, yo, you should go meet with the Saints because we've agreed to some compensation. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And then he did it, and he's like, nah, I'm good. It's like I don't think it would play there. Even though I was like, that'd be bullshit if he went there and they're like,
Exactly.
don't do this, but we'll sign you. And he's like, sounds good. Like that would suck, right? Like, you know, but also like we made our bed.
We appreciate you guys, and we will see y'all next week with hopefully some interesting stuff to talk about. Maybe Rich Eisen's 40 time. So till then, we'll talk to y'all later.